Welcome to Homegrown Florida. I'm Katrina, and today we're going to be making homemade bone broth. You may be wondering, what is the difference between bone broth and regular broth? Well, bone broth is made from the bones of the animals, whereas regular broth is made from the bones and the meat from the animal. My bone broth is a little bit of a hodgepodge of different things. I'm first going to be using a turkey carcass that we have from Sunday dinner at my mom's house, and also a couple chickens that I have roasted throughout the week. After we eat the meat from the birds, I save the bones and stick them in the freezer. So let's start cooking the broth. There's a couple different ways that you can do this. Today I'm going to be using my Presto 16-quart pressure canner. I like this canner because you can use it on a glass top stove without damaging the glass. I'll leave a link to this canner in the description below. I prefer to use a canner when making my broth because it's faster. But you can also make it in a crock pot or on the stove, but this is typically going to take you 24 to 48 hours. The first step is to pull the turkey and the chicken from the freezer. You can also add other things like leftover veggie scraps to your broth. Things like celery ends, onion peels, and carrot tops are all great things to add. You'll fill your canner up with water to the max fill line. But if your canner doesn't have a max fill line, just fill about 2/3 of the way up. We're going to seal the canner and turn the heat on. Once the canner starts to vent, place the weight on the canner and wait for the pressure to rise to about 11 or 15 pounds of pressure. Anywhere in there is good. If you don't have a gauge for your canner, you can use the 15-pound weight. Once the weight begins to rock, that's when you're going to start your timer for 45 minutes. Once your timer goes off, turn the heat off and allow the canner to depressurize naturally. This should take you about 15 to 20 minutes. Then remove the weight slowly. If there's too much steam, leave the weight on and wait like another 10 or 15 minutes. You're going to want to wait for all that trapped steam to escape before you open the canner. Once it's open, carefully strain the liquid from the bones. I actually needed 2 bowls in order to collect all the broth from this batch. Once you're done straining the broth, you need to skim the fat before canning. I usually do this by putting the broth in the fridge overnight, and then the fat's going to harden to the top. It's not safe to can without skimming the fat. Now it's time for the fun part. We get to actually can the broth, and this is what makes it shelf stable. The first thing you should do is heat the broth to a boil. I actually skipped this step, so I'm not exactly leading by example on good safety instructions here. Ladle your broth into your jars and clean the rims of the jars really well. This is going to ensure that you get a good seal. Place a brand new canning lid on each jar and then screw a ring onto the jar fingertip tight, which means about a quarter turn beyond what you can do with one hand. Place the jars into the canner and add about 3 inches of water to the canner. The water should not fill the canner up or completely submerge the jars. Then you're going to want to seal the canner and turn your heat on high. Allow your canner to vent for 10 minutes. Don't skip this step. Once the 10 minutes are over, add the weight to the vent and allow the canner to come to 11 pounds of pressure. Now you're going to pressure can your broth for 25 minutes for quarts or 20 minutes for pints. Once the time is done, allow your canner to depressurize naturally for 15 to 20 minutes. Then you're going to slowly remove the weight. It's best that when you're removing the weight during pressure canning that there is no steam escaping. It should be completely depressurized. Be careful when opening the canner, it will be very hot. Remove your jars and then place them on a towel on your countertop undisturbed for about 12 to 24 hours. And now at this point you can check to ensure that the seals are secure. If anything didn't seal correctly, just place it in your fridge and use it within a few days. It's been years since I bought broth from the grocery store. I use this in everything. I use it in place of water for things like rice and pasta. Not only does it add a really deep flavor to your cooking, it adds lots of nutrition as well. And it's basically free, since you're using the bones of animals that you have already eaten and are about to throw away. Before you can anything, make sure you get a tested and safe recipe. My favorite place to get safe recipes is the National Center of Home Food Preservation. My other favorite is Ball. You definitely want to pick up the Ball Book of Canning and Preserving. This book is amazing, and it has all the recipes and instructions you need to can pretty much anything. I'll add a link in the description below so that you can get yours. I got mine as a Christmas present last Christmas, and I use it every single time I can. I know that pressure canning can be a little scary, but the best way to get a new skill is to build up to it. Try water bath canning first. I have a recipe of how to make dill relish. I'll link that here. Then once you're comfortable with that, give pressure canning a try. Try out this recipe. Let me know how it goes down in the comments below.